can. Miguel is in Los Angeles. He wants to talk about justice.
Okay, everyone. I have for you today another reaction video. I quite enjoyed the last one, so I figured I would do another one. I'll probably do these on a regular basis going forward. So this time we have George Galloway and his mother of all talk shows. So I'm going to go through. I'm not going to watch the whole video. It's over 2 hours long, so that would take all day. So yeah, I'm going to start this one about halfway through. We're about 56 minutes in. So he's about to take a caller who is going to bring up the J word, right? So now, just a bit of background on George Galloway, in case you don't know him. You probably do. I've personally known of him. I've never met him personally, but I've known of him in the political sphere since the very early 2000s, well over 20 years. Now, originally I really didn't like him. I thought he was too much of a bleeding heart liberal. He seemed to be excessively critical of the West, you know, his own country, America especially. He seemed to absolutely despise America. Now, of course, I was young at the time. I didn't really know what I know now. Today, I actually have quite a bit of respect for George. I think he's one of the few people, certainly in politics, and just it seems like he, and also in his personal matters and opinions, he's stuck very much to his beliefs, right? He has not changed since I've known of him back as far back as I believe it was 2002. So, and I can't help but respect that, right? So most politicians, most people in media, they're sellouts, right? So they will change their opinions based on whatever brings them more money, right? That's it. They're sellouts. Whereas George isn't. He very much puts his neck on the line. He takes a lot of heat, and for the most part, I would say I agree with him. I'd say I agree with him on more matters than I don't. However, there is one thing that I don't, and the reason I'm doing this video is precisely that. So he's very much a JP or JQ denier, right? And when I say JP, you know what I mean. JQ, right? I'm on YouTube. I got to be careful what I say here, but you know what I mean, okay? So he very much entirely denies it, right? And this is where we're going to start the video at this point, where a caller actually brings up the subject on the tiny hats, the fifth column, and we're going to watch George's reaction to that, and then I'm going to comment on that. So I have a few other clips throughout the video to go over. We're not going to watch, like I said, the entire, even the second half. You know, from now I'm not going to watch the whole thing. There's only certain parts I wanted to bring up and comment on. So here we go.
Justice and Starmer, two words that should never be uttered in the same sentence. Miguel, go ahead. What do you want to say?
You are correct, sir. Thank you very much for the opportunity. You see, what happens is that all the countries in the Western world, they are controlled top to bottom, the governments, by the same people. They call themselves Hebrews, Jews, etc., and they run all the justice departments and the judiciary in every country in the Western world. So they manipulate the situation so that they can hammer people who are indigenous to those countries, to those lands, and yet set free people that belong to them. What happened to Starmer is a Mossad operation. They let him know that they know everything about him. And if he doesn't get in line with Ukraine, he would not survive to the next day or so. So that is why there's no justice going on at Old Bailey against these individuals, because these are Mossad agents and they're trying to fabricate a way to set them free. At the same time, they're seeing the behavior of Starmer that he's keeping on line with Ukraine, because the Ukrainians that are calling themselves Ukrainians, they're Hebrew Ukrainians. They're not indigenous Ukrainians. That's why
I'm going to stop you. I'm going
to stop you there, mate, because you're talking about something I don't like. So yeah.
I'm going to stop you there because I was giving you enough rope to hang yourself, but it's becoming offensive now. Starmer is not a Jew. The people who...
He never said Starmer was a Jew.
...are in the high cabinet offices of the British government are not Jews. Donald Trump is not a Jew. J.D. Vance is not a Jew. Hegseth is not a Jew. The head of the CIA is not a Jew. The searching for Jews in this picture is not only completely erroneous, completely false and wrong, it's highly dangerous because it poses the possible outcome that if we could get rid of all the Jews, we wouldn't have these problems in the world. And that, of course, is the road to Nazism. That is the road to fascism. The British newspapers are not owned by Jews. The British television networks are not owned by...
Oh, come on, George. Now you're just being disingenuous. The British networks, news networks and media outlets are not owned by them? Are you kidding me? Right, so Richard Sharp was the former chairman of the BBC. One of them. He's a J, right? Look up Rafi Berg, a Mossad agent. He's the senior editor for the BBC for all Middle East editorials, right? So he basically controls BBC Middle East and what is allowed to be published there. And he's done that for the last 25 years, right? Rafi Berg. He infiltrated the BBC. Well, he's part of the BBC, right? Those are just two names alone. It's common. Everyone knows that these people own the media, and here we have George completely denying it, right? He's just going through a list of people who are saying they're not Jews, right? I mean that's very much a fallacious argument, because yes, there are more people, there are more non-Jews than Jews on the planet, right? So just going through a list of saying, oh, this person is not one, this person is not one, that does not negate the fact that they are disproportionately represented in government and media, right? So that's a completely false argument there, George, right?
By Jews. Matter of fact, neither are the American networks. Rupert Murdoch is definitely not a Jew.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. Like you said, you're saying that all these people who are not Jews, does that mean that there are no, he's omitting the actual Jews who are in these positions, right? Just by going through a list of people who are not of that ethnic origin doesn't prove anything, right? So it's a very clever sleight of hand, but it's disingenuous, right? So this is the problem I have with George is he seems to be very straight and honest on everything else but this subject. So I don't know if he actually believes what he's saying, or if he is also some kind of controlled opposition, right? He has certain vested interests that he's protecting, and it seems to be that way. You know, he does talk about how he was in South Africa working with Jews, by the way, and he actually openly says that in his participation in the fight against apartheid, right? And I'm not saying that's wrong. I mean, apartheid, I can't really say I agree with that. But anyway, that's a subject for another video.
This kind of anti-Semitism is completely unacceptable here on the Mother of All talk shows, but much worse than that, it sets everybody...
Oh no, anti-Semitism. He brought up the word anti-Semitism. It's unacceptable. If we start criticizing these people, then that leads to anti-Semitism and Nazism and fascism. I mean, seriously?
Off looking in the wrong direction. All these people that I have mentioned are not Jews, they are Zionists. They are supporters of the part of the US empire, the battleship Israel, the aircraft carrier Israel. Israel is carrying out American imperial policy in the Arab Middle East, in the heart of the Muslim world, not the other way around. And hitherto, before that, it was a British battleship, a British aircraft carrier. And it wasn't carrying out Jewish policies, it was carrying out British...
Yes, it is, George. It's precisely carrying out Jewish policies. What are you talking about?
Empire policies, as it now carries out American empire policies. Now, you're absolutely correct that that part of the deep state, which is most deeply committed to the defense of Israel and everything that it does, are in a state of capture. They have been utterly captured. Our politics is as captured, almost, as your politics are captured. They are captured to carry out imperial policy in the most brutal, savage, genocidal fashion that any of us have ever seen since the Holocaust. But I'm not going to invite you to dilate on the Holocaust because I worry that you might even deny it. Don't come back, Miguel. You're not welcome.
Yeah, don't come back, Miguel. You're not welcome. I don't like talking about this subject. You're offending my paymasters. Okay, right. So he's talking about American imperialism, British imperialism, and how Israel is just a tool of the Anglo-American empire, right? So again, this is completely false, because what the United States is doing. I mean, look, this is the argument people make, that Israel is just a proxy. Okay, how can Israel be the proxy of the United States when the people that control the United States are dual citizens. This idea that Israel is just this unsinkable aircraft carrier, first for the British and then now for the Americans, it doesn't make sense, because what exactly are they carrying out on behalf? They're saying, oh, these are Zionists and they're just working for American imperialism. What exactly? What are they doing? Is Israel plundering the Middle East and sending all the resources back to the United States? No, it's the other way around. It's the United States that's plundering the Middle East and sending everything they have to Israel. Right? I mean, Israel is a liability. It's a drain, right? It is a net cost to the United States. It doesn't benefit the United States at all, right? So it is of no strategic benefit for the USA. A lot of people will think it is, but it's not. I mean, all I hear are buzzwords of American imperialism. Okay, go into more detail. What do you mean by that? What benefit? Show me what Israel's doing that works for the interest of the United States. Well, to destabilize the Middle East. Oh, to create chaos and war, and so we can feed the military machine and make more money. It's like that is really low IQ nonsense. It's not about making money. It's about control of resources, right? That's ultimately what they want. But the resources in the Middle East are in the Gulf states, which they already control, right? So yeah, this idea that Israel is just this puppet of the United States. Plus, it begs the question: what is it about? Why the whole Jewish thing? Why is it a Jewish state, right? What does this have to do with Jews and Judaism, right? If this is just a forward base for the American Empire, why make it into a Jewish ethno-state? What does that have to do with anything, right? It's because it's eschatological and ideological. That's what it's about. But that's, again, a different subject.
Because my duty is to the Lord. My duty is to the whole concept of truth. Somebody said to me on Twitter just an hour or so ago, we know what side you're on. And I answered, I'm on the side of the truth. How about you? As Malcolm X said, we stand for justice, no matter who it's for, no matter who it's against. This is our duty because we believe that we will face the Lord on the judgment day. And we have to be able to say that we always strove for justice, for haq in the Arabic language.
Malcolm X, George, you just quoted Malcolm X. You know what else Malcolm X said? Let's have a look, shall we?
Jews believe in censorship more than anybody else. All you got to do is start talking about Jews, and you'll find all the papers will close up on you. They can't take it. They can't take any criticism. They don't like you to talk about them, but they want to talk about everybody else.
Jews believe in censorship more than anybody else. All you got to do is start talking about the Jews, and you'll find all the papers will close up on you. Malcolm X. Probably shortly before he was assassinated, right? So Malcolm X, he did not shy away from the J word, right? So how about that, George? What do you think about that? You going to bring up any other quotes about Malcolm X? So yeah, I admire your desire to stand up for the truth, and you say you're a good Catholic, which I'm not disputing your motives, but I have to bring you up here on this question of the tiny hats, right? The fifth column. At this point, you can't deny it. It's too much of it's becoming so obvious that to deny it requires either extreme ignorance or having to lie about it, right? Denying reality itself. Okay, right. So the next part, I'm going to skip to 1 hour 23. This is just for comical purposes. We have a caller that George obviously himself found quite funny because he's playing the clip or the recording as part of his video. Here, it's caller doing a Trump impression, which is it's hilarious. So I'm gonna include this in the video just for that purpose alone. If you can have a giggle.
I listened to it. I thought, wow, what a great show. I've called into your show today, George, because I'm a great caller. Probably the greatest caller you've ever had. I really am. The only way your show could be better is if it had more of me, Donald J. Trump, in it. You keep talking about me, George. You do. I've heard it, and I have. So many of the American people, the best people, listen to your show. And I've heard them crying about me. I have, and I listen, and I go, ooh, America, don't cry. Don't cry. You need to be careful what you say about me, George. You don't want me to put a tariff on your show like I did with China. And then you'll come running for my help, just like little Zelensky. You know, I know you will. I know these things. Make the mother of all talk shows great again. That's why we're here. That's what we're gonna do, George. We're gonna boost your ratings. Donald is gonna boost them bigly. I'm giving your show the Trump bump. You're welcome, George. Thank me. And remember, nobody talks like me. Nobody calls like me. And absolutely nobody ends a phone call like me. I'm hanging up now. Not because I finished, but because I won.
You are listening.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. Okay, on to the next clip. There's 2 more, and then we are done.
Everything you do. I'm Palestinian myself.
Thank you, Bob.
I'm kind of nervous, talking on live. I've never done this.
Okay, so here we have a Palestinian living in America calling in, and he's bringing up the subject of Zionism being it's just European colonialism, right? So I'm going to comment on that.
Before, but I really want to get into the conversation with you. But this is European colonization, period. This is one of the biggest lies that they've been trying to spread and brainwash people with about making it a religious war against Jews, Muslims, and Christians. But Palestinians are Christians, Palestinians are Muslims, and they're Jewish Palestinians. We are all Palestinian, and we want a liberated, free equality. We want to live in peace. We want to be able to visit our family in the Holy Land. We don't want war. We want freedom and dignity and liberty for all. It doesn't matter where you're from. If you're in Palestine, you're in Palestine. But we are one. We're not supposed to be divided how they have been dividing us. In Palestine, you know what's going on. It's the biggest lie, that it's called Israel. Israel was in Palestine. It was, right now I'm really emotional because of what's going on in Gaza and everything. And it's so many layers of lies on top of lies on top of lies on top of lies. If you try to uncover one lie, then you have to uncover the other lie, and it's a lie. You guys know, and your audience knows what's going on in Palestine. And they just need to stop the European colonization of Palestine under Israel, trying to use the Jews as a scapegoat. This is European colonization, and we need an end to
okay, I'm going to let him finish, but I just have to jump in quick there because you see what he said there. European colonization and using the Jews as a scapegoat. I mean, that's an incredibly ridiculous argument for a start because, first of all, it's not European colonization. I'll get into that. But by saying the Jews are the scapegoat, blaming it on the Jews, and it's just victimizing the Jews once again and absolving them of the crimes that they are committing, right? So it's and coming from a Palestinian, I find this just absolutely incredible. I don't know if this guy's genuine or not, but I mean, he could be. I've heard this before. It's really quite frustrating and very disappointing to hear this coming from the people who are at the receiving end, right? They are directly on the front lines against global Zionism, right? They are the ones taking the most heat from the fifth column, right? And they still cannot say the word. They still refuse to acknowledge what it actually is. They can't call a spade. They just refuse to do so, and it's I don't know what to say about it. It's very it's ridiculous.
Colonization of the Holy Land. That's it. It's not hard to understand.
It's really not, and I'm glad you put it that way, Said. It's really not hard to understand. As sometimes journalists say, it's complicated. It's not complicated at all.
Yeah, I agree with you, George. It's not complicated. It really isn't. Yeah.
This is a European colonial settler state exactly like the other European colonial settler states that existed in different parts of the world across the continents. The Dutch settler colonial state in what is now Indonesia, the French colonial settler state that they built in Indochina, the white British and Dutch colonial settler states that they established in southern Africa, in Rhodesia, in what is now Zimbabwe. These were all European colonial settler states, and Israel is exactly the same. And it had nothing at all to do with Judaism. In the beginning, the founders...
All right, I'm just going to stop him right there. So, this idea that Israel is just another European colony, just like all the other ones he listed there. It's white settler colonialism. It's an extension of the British Empire, and that's it. It's no different. This really is quite ridiculous because if you look at, first of all, it's a Jewish state. Okay, you have to be Jewish to become Israeli. That's one of the preconditions, right? You can't be. Is it open to just ordinary white people? If it's a British colony, then surely it would be like Australia, right? Where it's colonized by English people. and by extension, Scottish, Welsh, Irish. But you get my point. So to say that this is just it's a white colony, so is it open to anyone who's white from Europe? No, of course not. But you know what it's open to? It's open to any Jew from anywhere in the world, regardless of their skin color, right? Only half of Israelis are actually genetically white, okay? And I'm not making this up, okay? Ashkenazis make up roughly half of the population of Israeli Jews, okay? Now, I'm not talking about the Palestinians who hold Israeli citizenship, right? They were allowed to, there was about 2 million of them, and they were allowed citizenship several decades ago. But I believe that's closed. I don't think anyone who's only today, certainly in recent decades, citizenship is only open to Jews, right? It's an ethno-state, all right? They are creating a Jewish-only ethno-state. See, this is what George omits, right? He fails to recognize this, right? He wants to blame this on white supremacy. So, like I said, only half of Israelis are genetically white, okay? The other half, guess where they're from? Morocco, Iraq, all over the Arab world, right? North Africa and the Middle East, and other parts of Asia, Ethiopia, South America, you name it. They're from everywhere, okay? So the biggest single group of Israelis come from the former Soviet Union, okay? That's the largest group, and they make up about 20% of Israeli Jews, okay? And yes, granted, they are white, but that's only 20%, okay? Do you know what the second largest group of Israelis are? Moroccan. They are the second after Russia. Morocco is the largest contributor of Jews to Israel. Okay, and third is Iraq. Are Iraqis white? Are Moroccans white? I mean, if they are, they've got a very, very heavy suntan, right? So to call this a white colony and white supremacy is absurd. And of course, we're not to mention the East African Jews, right? Primarily from Ethiopia. Are they white supremacists? Okay, now I know people say, "Oh, but they get treated badly. They're the victims of racism themselves." It's like, yeah, within the Jewish group, there is a hierarchy. Yes, I will agree with people on that, but that only is within their group, right? So there's a pecking order established within Jewry itself. And yes, I think white Ashkenazi, I don't even like calling them white, because they don't call themselves white, okay? They don't. European Jews do not consider themselves white, okay? White is somewhat of an ontological construct, in a way, right? But we'll go into that another time. So, yeah, to say that this is a white a white colony, just like any other European colony, that's disingenuous, George. That is completely flat out wrong. It's completely incorrect. So out of the 7 million Israeli Jews, 2 million of those alone come from Morocco and Russia. Okay, whether they are first or second generation. So out of the 7 million Israeli Jews, about 2.7 million are born in Israel. But of those, it's roughly the same. The largest group of those are actually from Russia, right? Second is from Morocco, and third is from Iraq.
Of the Zionist movement were all atheists. None of them believed in God at all, let alone that God promised them.
Yeah, okay, and then to say that has nothing to do with Judaism, as in the religion, that aside. So he's saying that it's nothing to do with Jewishness, right? He fails to say that he says it's white. It's just a white European colonialism, without the religious side. But then here he says it's nothing to do with Judaism. Well, how's that work, George? You're saying that Theodor Herzl and the founders of Zionism, which Herzl was not the founder of Zionism. He was the poster child. He was the one that was selected as the front man of Zionism. Okay? The plans to steal Palestine from the Ottoman Empire were already put in place decades before Theodor Herzl. Okay? I've made several videos about this. If you go through my channel, you'll see these. Yeah, so to deny that it's even anything to do with Judaism, again, that's completely disingenuous, because it was an idea of religious Jews, okay? There are countless examples of rabbis encouraging and funding the settlement of Palestine. Long before Herzl. We're talking 100 years before. There were already settlement builders funding and directly partaking in settlement building in Palestine. Okay, on a small scale. Okay, we're not talking huge numbers here, but we're still, this was still taking place, and it was absolutely religiously motivated. Okay, it was all. I mean, if you read the book Rome and Jerusalem by Moses Hess, he was a rabbi, right? He was a religious Jew, and again, this is around 1860, and his ideology was called labor Zionism. Okay. He actually encouraged Jews to take part in physical labor, right? So, but no, he was motivated by Judaism. Okay? And his idea was to create an alliance between religious and secular Jews, okay? In the mid-19th century. So it's absolutely has everything to do with Judaism. I mean, George, how can you deny it when it's a Jewish state? Okay, it's built for Jews only. Only Jews can have citizenship, and it's not just white Jews. Okay, it's Jews of all types. And yes, okay, within the Jewish circles, they are racist towards towards each other in some ways, but that's besides the point. Okay, the point is that to become an Israeli, you have to be Jewish. Whether you're a black Jew, a white Jew, a brown Jew, even a Chinese Jew, it doesn't matter. You're entitled to citizenship. So don't give me this crap about white supremacy and European colonialism and American imperialism. Israel owns the United States through its various lobbies, primarily AIPAC, and by extension all of Europe and Britain, of course. So, I mean, to deny that, the mental gymnastics needed to deny that are quite astonishing. Quite impressive, actually. I mean, it's just outright denial of reality.
Land of Palestine, apart from anything else, they tried in multiple countries around the world to establish their colonial settler state. But for the grace of God, there would have been a different PLO, the Patagonia Liberation.
Yeah, okay, so here he's bringing up the various other regions that the Zionists had their eyes on for establishing the state they wanted. There was Argentina, Uganda, Madagascar, even parts of the United States. I can't remember where. It might have been Arizona. So all these places, which would have been more pragmatic, much more suitable, because they were either empty or had much fewer people residing there to start with, right? So certainly Patagonia in South America, in Argentina, these are vast territories, which would have worked out far better, and there might not have even been any kind of conflict, although that's debatable. But anyway, why Palestine? Look at Palestine. First of all, it was already populated. Okay, don't believe in these lies that the Zionists will say to you that it was a land for a people without a land, right? An empty. And they're trying to say that the land was empty already. Okay, and it was just waiting there for the Jews. It was on hold. It was depopulated for the last 2,000 years because it was just waiting for them to come back, right? So. The land, first of all, Palestine, the territory is very small, okay, and there was already people living there. It's not exactly resource rich, okay. It's not self-sufficient in the sense that it doesn't have the resources to take care of itself, okay. So it's not exactly, it is somewhat strategic, but it's not the most strategic piece of land, right? The Suez is far more strategic. The Bosphorus is far more strategic. The Gulf states, that's where all the oil is, most of it, all right? Why did they choose Palestine? Why did they choose it? Why did they say, I mean, they were offered other places. They were offered Uganda. It would have been far easier to take Uganda. They would not have had any trouble taking it. And possibly it would have been in Madagascar also. So these other places would have been much easier to colonize. But they chose, and they insisted on Palestine, even though Palestine was already populated far more than these other places were, and it's smaller, lacks resources. But why do they insist on Palestine? Because it is ideological. Okay, it's religiously motivated. It is 100% motivated by Judaism. Okay.
Organization in Argentina. They were trying to set up Israel in Argentina. They tried to set it up in Uganda.
No, they didn't try and set up in these places. They were offered these places, but they refused. Okay, they weren't trying to set it up. They refused. They wanted Palestine.
They tried to set it up in the Seychelles. They tried to set it up in Kenya. They would have accepted any piece of territory given to them by the great empires to establish their state, because it had nothing to do with the Holy Land. They wanted a piece of the colonial action.
Rubbish, George. Again, it had nothing to do with the Holy Land. No, it had everything to do with the Holy Land. Okay, because the Holy Land is holy for, well, Muslims, Christians, and Jews, right? But I mean, here he's just being flat out dishonest, which is disappointing, because, you know, earlier he was talking about truth and being a good Christian, and you know, and here he's just completely denying reality.
Couldn't accept that all these settler states were coining it big, and they were being left out. And this is not rocket science or complicated. It's all there in black and white from the conference that founded the Zionist movement only a little over 100 years ago in Basel, in Switzerland. Theodor Herzl, from that day to the day just over a century ago when the British promised Lord Balfour.
Yeah, you see, so he's making out that the Zionists had you know, were happy to take Uganda or Kenya or these other places, but they were forced to take Palestine, right? It was the British that wanted them to take Palestine. That's what he's trying to say here. He's trying to say that these early Zionists would have been quite happy taking a piece of Uganda or one of the other many places that they were offered. And it was the other way around. The British wanted them to have that. The British thought, well, you know, it's just take Kenya, just take Uganda. There's more land, and there's more fertile land as well. Just you know, have these territories. But no, they wanted the Holy Land for ideological and religious and eschatological purposes. Eschatology is extremely important in this. But again, that's a discussion for another video.
Promised the leaders of that Zionist movement, particularly in Britain, Lord Rothschild, they promised them that they would view with favor the establishment.
Lord Rothschild. And what is his ethnic origin there, George? Is he a white supremacist? Is he British?
Of such a colonial settler state in the land of Palestine. And that was long before the Holocaust. For those who think that this all happened because of the Holocaust, this was all already happening long before Hitler, long...
Yeah, no, this is true. Absolutely true. What he's saying here is not wrong. This is 100% correct.
Before the Holocaust, it was one empire promising a people the land that belonged to another people, and made more piquant by the fact that the British Empire didn't even possess the land of Palestine at the point that they made that promise. So everything you've said was correct. There have always been Jews in Palestine. They lived in...
Yeah, there have always been Jews in Palestine at about 2 or 3%, okay? A very small minority, the same as most other places in the European and Muslim world, right? They typically exist, yeah, anywhere between 0.5 and 3, maybe 4%. That's usually the highest concentration you'll find them.
Perfect harmony with Muslims and Christians in Palestine. It is Zionism.
Yeah, he's trying to separate Zionism from Judaism here. He's like, oh, it's the Zionists. And who are the Zionists, George? Who are they? They're just white people from Europe? Really? Again, that just goes back to, can any European claim Israeli citizenship just by virtue of his skin color, just because he's white, right? Or if we want to narrow it down, if say it's a British colony, can British people claim citizenship just because they're British? No, of course not.
Nationalist ideology that Jews are not a religion, they are a nation with national rights. This nationalist ideology is what not only caused well over a century now of blood and horror in the Middle East, but poisoned the well, the once fine, clear well of the Jewish people in Europe, in North America, who were the very best of people, who were the leaders of everything that was good and everything.
Oh, come on, George. I mean, here we go. This is just ridiculous. It's just saying that, oh, before Zionism, they were just a shining light of upon the nations, right? There was no they had no, they were living in harmony with everyone. There were no problems, there were no expulsions, 109 expulsions never happened. Well, 1,000 expulsions, should I say. Oh yeah, they were the very best. They were just the best of people. Yeah, I mean, seriously.
That could be a part of a better future for humankind. I've just been looking at a picture of my comrade Joe Slovo, the leader of the armed struggle of the liberation movement in South Africa. He and his wife, Ruth First, Jewish leaders of the liberation movement of Africans in South Africa.
Yeah, so, okay, where are the Jews taking up arms against Zionism, right? If Zionism has corrupted and taken Judaism hostage, why are they not fighting that, right? Why is there no armed resistance groups, Jewish armed resistance groups, taking up arms? I'm not talking about protests, waving banners and saying "Free Palestine," all this stuff that doesn't really do anything. Why are they not taking up arms? Name me one Jewish resistance group on the ground, fighting alongside the other resistance groups against Zionism, right? Name me one. You won't be able to, because there are none. Okay, you will not find the Jewish liberation movement against Zionism, right? There are no armed, and I mean armed resistance, right? Like we see with Hezbollah, like Hamas, like Ansar Allah, these armed groups fighting against Zionism, right? Where are the Jews? Why are there no Jews fighting against Zionism? And I mean fighting with as an armed resistance movement. Here he's talking about Jews fighting against apartheid. But why were they not fighting against Zionism? What's stopping them?
Africa. Jews were at the front line, the vanguard of all that was good in the world until Zionism, this vulgar, crude, fake nationalism introduced by the Zionist movement, poisoned that particular well. Thanks, Said, for giving me the opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous. Like, okay, what is Zionism, George? It's Jewish nationalism. Who are the Zionists? Zionists, okay, again, this is what they'll say. Oh, well, most Zionists are not Jews. Most Zionists are actually Christian. No, George. Zionists, you can be a Zionist supporter, but an actual Zionist, someone who's actually participating in the colonizing of Palestine, gaining citizenship, residing in occupied Palestine, you have to be Jewish, right? So the beneficiaries of Zionism are Jews only. Only Jews can benefit from. Now, any idiot, any Shabbos Goy can assist and support the project, right? They can lend themselves out to be useful idiots, which is what they are, and support the project, but they can't partake. They can't really partake in it or benefit from it, right? Other than maybe financially, right? So you'll get John Hagee types, the pastor there, the evangelical nut job pastor who raises huge amounts of funds and for the Zionist cause, and obviously he's enriched himself. He obviously does very well financially out of it, but that's it. He doesn't get to be an Israeli. He doesn't get to own a piece of land in Israel and live there. He can visit, I'm sure, but he can't actually be part of this project, which is Jewish nationalism. Okay. But yeah, I mean, then he's just saying how great they are. Oh, they're all that. They're the best of humanity. All that is good was led by them. I mean, again, it's really disingenuous to say that.
To say that, Tony Donovan, wow, sends $100. Says keep going.
Okay, well, anyway, guys, that's the video. I think I've covered what I wanted to cover on that. Leave the comments below. Like, share, and of course, subscribe. All right, until next time.